Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General here. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your presence. I want to take this opportunity to announce the latest lawsuit that I'm leading alongside 7 Democratic attorneys general against the Trump administration after it unlawfully terminated education grants for California and for other states across the nation. Grants that in California total, by our estimation, $148 million. And between all states represented in this lawsuit, total at least $250 million. So across the plaintiff states in this case. For those who've lost count, this is now the 6th time we've been forced to sue the president since his term began just over 6 weeks ago. Disheartening and disappointing, yes, but not at all surprising, unfortunately. Before I get into the details of today's case, I want to welcome the folks standing with me here today. You'll hear from almost all of them. Dr. Shireen Pari, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Educator and Leadership Programs at California State University. Dr. A.D. Williams, Principal Investigator and Program Director at California State University, Los Angeles. And Jonathan Zay, a teacher in training. We also have with us Esperanza Acosta. So you'll hear from them in a moment. And as I mentioned, I'm not the sole Attorney General on this lawsuit. Today's action is the result of a great collaboration with my fellow Attorneys General, a process we often engage in, working together, teaming up when we have issues of common interest in enforcing the rule of law and upholding the Constitution. We are joined by the following additional states: Massachusetts, New Jersey, Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, New York, and Wisconsin. This case is also the result of the hard work, late nights, and leadership of the public servants in California DOJ's Civil Rights Enforcement Section. I'm endlessly grateful for their commitment to serving the 39 million Californians who rely on us. So let's talk about the lawsuit. Since February 7th, the U.S. Department of Education has terminated at least $600 million in nationwide funding for programs that prepare and train K-12 teachers to enter our schools and teach our students. As I said, we're talking about more than $140 million in grants for California alone, for our state, funds that have already been allocated by Congress. Congress has decided this already, and they've been awarded and they've been obligated through the Teacher Quality Partnership Grant Program and the Supporting Effective Educator Development Grant Program. So Congress has appropriated the funding. It went through a grant process. The awards were made. They were obligated. They were committed to California and the other states who are suing today. These are grants that our state's counting on to train and prepare qualified educators. Funds that are critical to addressing our state and nation's teacher shortage crisis. Funds that are critical to getting teachers into rural schools, into urban schools, and into hard-to-fill positions, teaching math, teaching science, teaching special education. Funds that improve the quality of education for our children, our kids, and create more career opportunities for Californians. Funds for programs that increase teacher retention rates and give teachers the support they need to pursue longer careers, to keep teaching and keep educating the next generation of young people. Funds that make it possible for hundreds of California teachers to afford to earn their degree and credentials each year, that provide stipends so aspiring teachers can focus on how to be a teacher without needing to get a second job or go into debt to support what's a truly selfless career. Terminating these grants hurts aspiring teachers and the K-12 schools that rely on this federal funding to bring teachers into their classrooms. These terminations also hurt the University of California and California State University systems, which were granted $56 million, some of which has already been spent. With these terminations, UC and CSU would lose the remaining $40 million over the next 5 years, $8 million of which they had earmarked to use between now and September to make sure K-12 schools have the teachers they need come fall. The universities would have to look to layoffs, reduced hours for university staff, and reduced or eliminated support and funding for aspiring teachers. It's easy to get lost in that bigger picture, so I want to drill deep, make this tangible, get into some of the details for a minute, because these cuts will have an impact on real individuals, real people in our state. On the list of terminated grants is a $7.5 million grant for Cal State Los Angeles that supports training and certifying approximately 276 teachers and educators who are focused on special education, high school STEM, and bilingual education in the Los Angeles and Pasadena Unified School Districts. Another is a $2.4 million 5-year grant for Chico State. This grant addresses a chronic and acute shortage of teachers in rural northeastern California by encouraging local students to become teachers in their own communities. If cut, approximately 225 undergrad and master's students and credential candidates enrolled in the program would no longer receive training. Another is a $2.2 million 5-year grant for Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. This program provides living wage stipends for participants that agree to teach for 3 years in one of 32 high-need schools in the area that serve nearly 40,000 pre-K to 12th grade students, aspiring teachers who are focused on bilingual education and special education. Terminating these education grants will clog the pipeline of passionate, qualified, good teachers from entering our classrooms. It'll squash aspiring teachers' dreams, individuals who feel called to this work, who want to do this work, who've been working toward and dreaming of this career for years. And it will yank teachers out of schools and away from kids who deserve every investment in their education, in their future. Terminating these education grants is a clear violation of the Administrative Procedure Act, as we've set forth in our complaint, which is why we're suing the Trump administration and we're seeking a temporary restraining order to prevent further disruptions, meaning we are asking the court to immediately halt these cuts and require that this funding continues to flow into California and the other states who have brought suit. These cuts could not come at a worse time as our schools face a serious teacher shortage crisis. Just last year, 40,000 teacher positions across the U.S. were vacant or filled by uncertified teachers. That's about 1 in 8 of all teaching positions nationwide. Teacher shortages mean larger class sizes, canceled courses, and teachers taking on subjects that aren't their specialty, who are doing the best they can in a very difficult situation. Trump's plan will only make these problems worse by immediately cutting the number of teachers and teacher trainees in schools and impacting a pipeline of new teachers for years to come. Sadly, the people Trump's hurting most of all are our kids. Kids in rural areas, kids in urban areas, kids in high poverty communities and high need schools, kids who need and deserve extra support and additional resources, kids just trying to learn math and just trying to learn science. That's who Trump is hurting with this action. While Trump and Elon Musk may tout these cuts to programs, cuts of entire agencies, as a cost savings, and let's be real, that's a stretch at best given the amount of funds that are at issue here. We have to ask ourselves, what will the long-term cost be to our nation? The answer is tremendous. In 2022, out of 37 developed nations, American students ranked 28th in math and 12th in science. Those numbers don't stand a chance of improving without qualified teachers in the classroom. How can we as a nation expect to lead the world's technological and scientific developments when we're falling behind in basic geometry and biology? When we turn our backs on aspiring teachers who want nothing more than to educate our kids, who want to be in the classroom helping our kids. If we do away with a department devoted to ensuring every kid in America can go to school. President Trump can shout and scream America first all he wants, but his anti-education agenda will only ensure we come in dead last. As Attorney General, as a father, as someone who cares about the trajectory of our state, of our nation, I can't sit back while the president attempts to pull the rug out from under aspiring teachers and kicks our kids' futures to the curb. I won't sit back while he violates the law, undermines Congress's responsibility, and fails to make good on federal financial obligations. So, I will see the Trump administration in court again. This may be the latest lawsuit. Unfortunately, I doubt it will be the last. We don't expect the president's barrage of unlawful, chaotic, and disruptive executive orders and actions to slow down, which means neither will our work ahead. Fortunately, I know we'll be able to weather the storm because of the dedication and tenacity of the folks on our teams. Before I open it up for questions, I want to shout out the folks at DOJ who made today's action possible. Alexis Piazza, Heidi Joya, Garrett Lindsay, Laura Fair, Maureen Onyebako, Dennis Oho, Michael Newman, Damon Brown, Christina Bull-Arndt. We have a great team at DOJ fighting important fights on behalf of Californians, making sure that rule of law is upheld and that the investments from the federal government that are committed and should be flowing to us under the law actually make it and come to California. We will continue to push and continue to hold this presidential administration accountable to following the law. Not a lot to ask, but we are going to continue to push on that. I'll be back for questions, but please allow me to introduce the other speakers here today, starting with Dr. Shireen Pari.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. The California State University is a key partner in preparing the state's educator workforce. We prepare 50% of the state's teachers, and 1 out of 25 teachers across the country is a CSU graduate. As you know, there are chronic teacher shortages in our state and across the nation, and just this year, in 24-25, the state of California needed to hire 25,000 teachers to fill the vacancies that existed across schools in our state. We are devastated by the termination of the Teacher Quality Partnership and the supporting Effective Educator Development, or SEED, grants that were appropriated by the U.S. Congress to support the preparation of highly qualified teacher workforce. These grants have greatly assisted our CSU campuses in recruiting teacher candidates, in funding their schooling, and in graduating highly prepared teachers to serve all young people in the state, especially in areas of particular teacher shortage, including the science, technology, and math, STEM areas, our special education and bilingual education areas. These grants have also focused on serving high poverty and underserved regions of the state, both urban and rural, that have fewer highly qualified teachers. The sudden termination of this funding pulls the financial and academic support from students who are currently enrolled in these teacher preparation programs. It negatively impacts the infrastructure that we have carefully built over the years to support our teacher preparation programs. And more importantly, the grant cancellations will result in fewer highly qualified teachers for our schools and students and increase teacher shortages across the state. So now I'd like to introduce you to our faculty, Professor Dr. A.D. Williams from Cal State LA, Professor in Education. Please, A.D.
Good afternoon, y'all, and thank you for being here today. You know, this is a tough moment for everyone who cares about our kids and their future. The cancellation of these grants isn't just a policy change. It's a betrayal of our students, our teachers, and our communities. Here's why that matters to you. Teachers leave the profession because they're underprepared, overwhelmed, or feel alone and unsupported. Over the last 15 years, we've found solutions through teacher residency programs that are now being cut. Here's how they work. We place resident teachers in a classroom with an expert mentor teacher for a full year. By the time that they have their own classrooms the following year with your children, they're ready on day one. Day one, they hit the ground running. They know what they're doing. They're confident and they're supported, and that's why they succeed. We've evolved. We're not just helping classrooms now, we're transforming whole communities. Our residents work with local community-based organizations to understand who these kids are outside of school so that they can better serve them inside the classroom. This isn't just theory. This is working right now. This is action. The hardest areas to staff, STEM, special education, bilingual education, our teachers are thriving. Why? Because they are prepared. They're supported, and they're connected to the communities in which they serve. There are teachers who stay. These are teachers who stay after 5 years, when so many others leave the profession entirely. These are teachers that your kids deserve. This isn't a game. This isn't about politics. This is about your kids having access to the best, most well-prepared teachers in their classrooms. Your kids deserve better, and this is why we're fighting to make sure that they get it. I appreciate your time. I'm going to introduce Jonathan C.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Yes, my name is Jonathan Z. I am currently a resident in the Los Angeles Urban Teaching Residency Program with Dr. Williams as part of Cal State LA's continued effort to make sure that me as a teacher, teachers before me, and teachers after me can continue to teach not only the students that are in the schools right now, but the students in the future to the best of our ability. This is only possible if we have the funding needed. Without the TQP grant, I certainly would not have been able to take the jump from what I was doing before, which was a pharmacy route, to teaching. It is no surprise that the financials behind being a pharmacist is far greater than the financials of being a teacher, but I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the children. They're not just students, I consider them my students. The importance of being in a program such as this is that I am with these students from the beginning of the year to the end of the year with a very qualified mentor teacher. He has been teaching in the sciences for 17 years. I have learned more from him than I could have from any sort of book, because when you are a teacher, you learn from doing. There's a saying I hear all the time, which is you get out what you put in. But I am not a endless well of resources. I need to have the support of Dr. Williams. I need to have the support of the grants that are allowing me to pursue what ends up being my profession and my passion. And I need the support of our government. I need the support of not just the American politicians. I need the support of the American people. We need the support, the hearts of everybody. We cannot change and adapt the future without help. So I firmly believe that LAUTR and all these other teacher residency programs are essential to ensuring not only qualified teachers now, but qualified teachers for all the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just end by saying that when you have a challenge like a teacher shortage crisis, it is appropriate for government to respond and to invest in ways to address that challenge head on, invest in teacher training programs, and invest in resources to help alleviate the crisis and put high qualified teachers in schools teaching kids who need it. And this is a program that works. And in seeking to unlawfully end these grants, the Trump administration is turning his back on teachers and on children, and we won't let him break the law and hurt teachers and children as he's trying to do. So thank you for being here. I'm happy to open up to any questions you might have.
Would you mind explaining the decision to file this lawsuit in federal court in Massachusetts as opposed to California?
Yeah, we're in courts all over the country. We've been winning in courts all over the country. Put us in any court where we have a fair, objective judge that will review our complaint and our factual presentations, our legal theories, we feel will prevail. So any court is as good as any other as far as I'm concerned. We have a series of a coalition of different states involved. One of them's Massachusetts, so we filed in Massachusetts.
Hi, Attorney General. I'm Sarah Randazzo with the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to clarify 2 points. First, has the money actually stopped flowing yet, or is there a sense of when the actual impact will happen? And then secondly, when the administration did this, they cited kind of divisive concepts that were being taught in their conception in the training. Have you guys seen anything that you feel like in this climate could be perceived as politically too ideological in these training programs? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I'll take those in order that you asked them. So with respect to the termination, the Department of Education set out notice of termination letters. So we take them at their word that the funding is not going to be flowing. And that's what was told to us, and that's what we believe they will act on unless they are stopped in court because their actions are unlawful. So we brought our lawsuit because of the imminence and the injury. The letter that was sent, the letters that were sent, were all boilerplate. They were all pro forma. They all said the same things with the same buzzwords. They talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They talked about waste, fraud, and abuse, and they talked about, they had some catch-all component about anything else that's not consistent with America's priorities. There was absolutely nothing that was individualized or factually specific about any program, about any grant and how it was being used. It was just something, some pro forma boilerplate letter that they pressed print on and changed the addressees. So that is exactly what is unlawful. That is, there's a process and rules to follow and a way to consider the actions that they're considering. And they didn't do any of that. And nor do they have the authority to do it, as our complaint sets forth. So what you have suggested that they've mentioned in their letters, this is unfortunately consistent with what they've been doing in executive orders, like waging the culture wars with these buzzwords, and you can't even tell what they're talking about, as some way to feed their base and create political cover for a blatantly unlawful action.
In this particular lawsuit, you mentioned the impact that it has both on rural and urban areas. Just looking at the list of states that are involved, there aren't, I didn't immediately see any red states. And I was just wondering what the discussion has been with Republican attorneys general who might be affected by these cuts, and whether there's been any back and forth, since presumably the lawsuit would, if you're successful, lead funds to flow in their states as well.
I mean, where's the red state lawsuit? Why aren't they fighting for the funding coming to their states? They are losing the funding, and they're just going to take it. We're not going to take it. It's unlawful It's wrong. These are our kids. These are teachers. If they want to bend the knee to this action because they happen to have the same party, even though it's unlawful, that's their choice. We're not doing that. We are upholding the rule of law. We are demanding unapologetically that everyone, including, yes, the President of the United States, follow the law. And we will fight for everyone. We've sought national injunctions and received and secured them at times. Yesterday we secured one. National Institutes of Health funding. We got a national injunction on that, meaning a court order that applied to all states, even the red states that didn't bring a case. They are getting federal funding for critical biomedical research on cancer and Alzheimer's, on life-saving clinical trials because of our work. So we will fight for all Americans. We will fight for everyone who deserves the funding that's being unlawfully withheld. And in this case, the people that raise their hand are the states that you see on the complaint.
Why go ahead with a lawsuit?
Can I just follow up quickly on, there's obviously been a draft executive order circulating that suggests that President Trump is looking to shut down the Department of Education. I know that there's a lot of spaces that you all as AGs are watching. What would be what you'd be looking for as like the impact that could have on California? What will be sort of the pieces that you're looking at to see if the Trump administration proceeds under the law to do so?
Based on his prior actions, there's a high likelihood that the process that he has adopted, doing what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, moving fast and breaking things, including breaking the law and violating the Constitution, that such an act, especially when there's congressional appropriation for funding for a long-standing department, a mainstay in the U.S. government, appropriately so, federal government for years and decades, there's a potential for it to be unlawful. So we'll look, and we'll see exactly what he's doing, how he's doing it, what authority he has or does not have, and if it's unlawful, we will challenge it and take it to court. If it's completely lawful, we'll have absolutely nothing to do on that one. And like all these cases, they're based on him breaking the law. They're not based on a political ideology, difference of opinion, or political grievance. If that's all we had, courts would throw us out immediately. They're doing the opposite. They're telling us, like the judge who ruled that on a granting a restraining order on the executive order seeking to revoke birthright citizenship, that this is a blatant violation of the Constitution, one of the clearest cases he's seen in 4 decades. So we'll take it on the merits based on whether it adheres to the law or not. We're very aware that it's coming. It's been projected, it's been signaled, it's been talked about. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and we'll be ready.
Why go ahead with a lawsuit when you have 2 other items you could use to try to guarantee this funding? One is to go to the Congress and have them reinstate in the budget these programs themselves. Second, if it's that critical, and you're losing that much in federal funding, why not go to the state of California? Last time I checked, Gavin Newsom's budget is $240 billion. So why aren't we using California's funds and not being dependent upon Washington, D.C. if it's that critical?
Because Congress has appropriated it, the decision's been made, the grants have been authorized and committed, and they need to come. The process that the law sets forth has been gone through. There is no legal action that the executive branch, which executes the will of Congress, and here should be executing that will, not saying, hey, we're not going to send the funding that has already been authorized. So there's no need to go back to Congress. Congress has already decided. You don't ask them a second time to do the thing they already did. They did it. They appropriated the funding. It is incumbent upon the executive branch to follow the law and push that funding out as Congress has demanded. You don't say, when someone breaks the law, you don't go back to the person that was following the law and say, you know, re-emphasize and reaffirm your position. It's not Congress's issue. It's the executive branch that's breaking the law. And yes, states have resources. States could pay for the same things that the federal government is paying for. I mean, your argument suggests we should pay for Medi-Cal, for CHIP, for food programs like SNAP, for FEMA disaster relief, for IDEA and Title I funding for our schools. Yes, there's other money that could be used for that. But that's what the federal government has appropriated the money for. Every state receives billions of dollars in federal funding. And that federal funding, when it's appropriated by Congress under the rules of the law, and the executive branch can't stop it, it must come. So we are insisting that the law be followed here.
Even if they follow the law, even if the court says the funding has to go through, you still stand a chance of losing it if the Congress decides in the next budget series not to allocate the funding. So what are you going to do then?
These grants have been allocated. They're allocated, so they're not changeable. They have multi-year rollouts, but Congress has decided that grants have been issued, and so these grants are done. They're not reversible. They won't be reversed. Should a Congress in a future budget go through the appropriate process, considering their authority of the power of the purse, how they want to spend their funds, have the political will in a constitutionally compliant way to make different decisions going forward, they can do that. They're going to have to explain to their people in their states why they stopped funding teachers for the teacher shortage crisis, where they're going to have to tell the parents of the students who they're turning their back on why they're doing that. But they may do that lawfully, and then the president could sign a future prospective Congressional Budget Act. But that's not what this is. This is a past Congressional Budget Act that has already appropriated this money, and these grants have already been given. So you can't pull them back now after they've already been given. Yeah.
So just based on what you told us, did you say that by taking this funds away from education, it would be catastrophic for the state of California? And can you also give us a couple of specific examples as to how not having this funding in California would hurt our classrooms?
Sure. Yeah, it's catastrophic. And a lot of different things are catastrophic. The $3 trillion that the president sought to withhold overnight, that's catastrophic as well. Withholding National Institute of Health funding that funds clinical trials and critical research, that's catastrophic. It seems to be a theme in the actions the president takes. And there's different impacts. And when it comes to our children, our public education system, our teachers, and you're withholding this funding that is required under the law, yeah, that's catastrophic. So yes, I'd say that. I went through some examples. We talked about right here in LA. We talked about Chico, and the different examples of teachers who are being trained, who are being deployed to go to classrooms to teach critical subjects like math and science that need more math and science teachers, like bilingual education, like special education. In high-need communities where there are teacher shortages, where they would be making class sizes smaller. They would be making more subjects available to students to learn. They would make sure that teachers are teaching the thing they are best at teaching and best trained at. Those are all what our children deserve if we're to get them where they should be, help them reach their full potential. We need these investments. This was a very thoughtful approach by Congress to address a real challenge across our country when it comes to a teacher shortage crisis, and this money should flow to avoid the catastrophe.
Sorry, one more for the folks from CSU. So just to put a finer point on the timeline, at what point, will you have to let teacher trainees go, if the money, how urgently, is the next kind of round of funds needed for you guys?
You want to take the mic?
So we received the first of our two grants, the notification on the 7th of February, and the second notification for the residency grant was on the 12th of February. They immediately said funds are stopped, program is stopped, you are not able to continue, you are not able to bill anything after that happens after the 2nd or the 12th, respectively. So we are already looking at staff layoffs and trying to figure out how we can keep people afloat whose lives are depending on these. Their benefits are depending on this. Our students are depending on this. So this is how urgent it is. And that's kind of more timeline-ish. Okay? Yes.
So like, I spoke to some college students earlier today.
Yes.
Basically, some of them seem to be confused about what's going on with education right now. But one of their main concerns is that, they get grants, federal grants, and they're afraid that those would be next. Are they in jeopardy right now, those federal grants that students are getting to get their higher education?
I can't answer that except for these are grants that we were able to provide. We had resources that were allocated to us so that we could bring in 276 teachers, and those funds would be immediately terminated. So I know there are federal Pell Grants. I know there are other grants that are available. I'm not versed on the status of those grants.
What's the question?
Pell Grants, other grants.
Oh.
Are afraid that, their federal grants may be next. Are they in jeopardy right now?
I think a lot of different federal sources of federal funding are in jeopardy, meaning they're being considered by the federal administration as revenue that they might want to cut. And, take in case in point, their $3 trillion proposed overnight essentially cut, their NIH funding cut, these federal grants for teacher training and to address our teacher shortage, this cut, that's what they're doing. They're unlawfully cutting federal funding. And I think, what they've said they would cut and what they, what Project 2025 says they will do, what they've promised on the campaign trail are all good indicators of what they will try to do. And it's our job to make sure that if anything they do is lawful. Part of that $3 trillion cut that was sought by the OMB, Office of Management and Budget memo, included Pell Grants. It included federal funding for federal student loans and grants for college. And we were able to stop that with a restraining order. We were able to stop it for a longer period of time. Today, we secured a preliminary injunction in that case, so that money will flow. And the point I want to really put an emphasis on is the notices from the Department of Education about the end of funding were essentially overnight. And the funding had already been provided. Training programs were in progress. There was planning to put teachers in certain classrooms after their training was over to help the students that needed it. And all that, the Department of Education sought to end essentially overnight without any notice, after the funding had been relied on, planned for, booked, and people selected as the trainees to be teachers. So I want to put a fine point on that, because we believe that is not just unlawful, but it creates irreparable harm. And that's why we're seeking a restraining order to stop it immediately in court. And we believe we'll be successful based on the unlawfulness of the conduct, and we will be able to avoid the irreparable harm for now based on this action. And then we'll seek a preliminary injunction after that to extend the blockage of this unlawful action. Any other questions? Thanks, everyone.